I want to do today is show you the the phases of transformation. And I hope this can give you a little bit of clarity, a little bit of insight as to where you are in this journey. And if you're in the messy stage, if you're in the getting the hang of it stage, at least you know, oh, okay. So this is supposed to be messy then. Like I'm not doing it wrong. It's not that this journey is not right for me. That's how it's supposed to be. So let's talk about that here. Now, some of you may have seen this before because on a couple of like, if I see it appropriate, whenever we do 30-day reviews, sometimes we'll kind of jump in here and I'll show you where you're at, or we kind of discuss where you're at. So these are the 5 stages or phases of transformation. Now, everyone approaches their journey differently, approaches their journey with us, that is differently. Some start out in phase one. I would say most start out in phase one. Some start out in phase two, and maybe some are a little further along in their journey and they're starting out in like phase 3 or 4. But regardless, even if you're starting out already like really on top of your shit, you're consistent, you've been eating healthy for a long time, normally there is still an essence of messy phase, getting the hang of it phase, learning phase, because we're doing things a little different. So just to summarize the 5 phases, we have the messy phase, which is probably one of the hardest ones mentally to go through. We have the getting the hang of it phase, which is where we're building some confidence and we're feeling good. We have the learning phase, which is where we introduce new subjects, new topics. We're starting to really like embrace this new identity who we're evolving into, learning new things. And we have the consistency phase, which throws us back into another season of frustration for the most part. And then we have mastery. And mastery is where we really step into this new, not this new, because it's not like that person never existed. We really step into who we truly are, the higher version of ourselves, who's not always like fighting with ourselves mentally to get things done. So let's kind of talk about these here. The messy phase, the reason why I say that this one is usually the most frustrating for people is because this is normally where we start, where we have all of the best intentions. We're excited, we're encouraged, we're like ready to get this done. We think we're going to jump in, we're going to pick up some heavy weights, we're going to see gains, and it's just going to be smooth sailing. And then we realize that the combining of the two worlds is more kind of like a battle sometimes. Like we have to really face the habits that have kept us stuck before getting into this journey, right? Maybe that's like eating out of boredom, or maybe that's, you know, getting home and watching TV for 3 hours before you do anything, or maybe that's like, eating out too much. So, whatever it is, it could even just be stuff we're dealing with in our own minds, honestly. When we have the new version of us that wants to finally come through, it kind of does have to fight it out with the old one at times. Sometimes the old version wins, and especially in the messy stage, the old us wins probably more than we would like for it to, because it's so deep in our habits. Like we're just so used to doing things a certain way that just because we want to change it doesn't always mean that it's that simple. Sometimes it really takes working at it and taking small steps every single day and creating that big change with time. But this can be frustrating because we might not always expect this part to be so hard. We think that just because we want something and we're ready to embrace it, that it's just that simple. It's going to click and we're going to do it, and there's going to be no resistance. And as you all at this point have probably experienced, is it's really not that easy. There's so many different things that come into this equation that we have to overcome before we can move into the second phase. Now, the second phase is the getting the hang of it phase, where you're like starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're like really starting to get a grasp at it. It's not feeling like such a fight, you're not feeling so much like you're at odds with yourself. And you're like, okay, I got a good solid like month that I am proud of, where my calendar looks great. I've checked into my workouts. I've also not just checked into them, but I was present, I was focused, I did my best. Also, my food looked great. I've resisted like just random little cravings and temptations. I've been consistently hitting my goals and my habits. Like, this is feeling good. I think I'm getting the hang of this. And you will be amazed how many people think the journey ends at phase two. They're like, okay, I got this. I'm good. I've learned so much. I went through the hard part. I'm getting that momentum. I'm cool. But then we have what's called the learning phase, because when you're in the first two phases, you're still taking a lot of direction, right? Like you're relying on training plans, you're relying on support. You have a team that you really do rely on, and that's a great thing to have. But then we also want to make sure that we empower you to know the things that will move you forward for the rest of your life. So this is where you have to start taking responsibility for learning the things, the tools that are going to continue moving forward. So these are things like learning how your gut health functions, learning how to eat more intuitively, learning how to be more present during your workouts, like all the different components that are going to help you continue to build that mastery. And then it doesn't end at the learning phase, because now we have to practice what we've learned, right? It's not just enough to know things. You want to make sure you're taking action, fine tuning it. So I mentioned that this phase right here, phase 4, the consistency phase, is where frustration tends to creep back in for most people, and for different reasons than phase 1. Because with phase 4, things start to feel repetitive. You're doing the same old things and you're repeating them over and over and over and over and over again. So that whole like novelty of the newness, at least with the messy phase, the good part about that is things still feel new. They feel different. They feel refreshing, even though they're hard. And that is a benefit to that stage. But then with the consistency phase comes like, I've been doing this, I've been eating that, I've been exercising that way. And all it is just the period where you prove to yourself that you will continue to show up, even when you're not seeing crazy transformation in the mirror from one week to the next. In fact, like real change in our physical body takes a long time. It takes years before you really see this like sculpture that you're creating out of yourself. And not just that, but the average human needs anywhere from 1 to 2 years before they are actually mentally transformed. Because in the learning phase and the getting the hang of it phase, for the most part, we're still pretty much the same person that we were in the messy phase. We're still the same. We still think a lot of the same things. We're now just learning to be more like mentally tough and disciplined. But overall, the human that we are is still very much similar or the same. We're just maybe a little stronger now. So in the consistency phase is really where that molding mentally really happens, because this is where you do something over and over and over again that it really starts becoming who you are, your identity, not just something that you do. So the consistency phase is probably the phase where many advanced people get stuck too, because they think, well, I'm bored, or things aren't moving in the same pace that they were in the beginning. I'm just not that excited about it. Like, where really is the end game now? So the consistency phase can be tough. It brings on a whole new level of mental toughness. I think anyone who has received a degree knows what the consistency phase feels like, because sometimes it feels like you're working at it for years and you're like, when does this end? Like there's so much to do still. Like and I'm just doing the same damn thing over and over and over and over and over again. And you might even question, is the end goal worth it anymore? Do I even want that? I don't know if I even want that. Like after all of this, I don't even know how I feel about it and if it's worth all of this time and energy I've been dedicating. Of course, deep down, that's not true, but sometimes we might feel that way. And then you reach the level of mastery where you, as a human, the way your brain is wired is different, because you have now put in years or several months into the creation of who you are now. And you have gone through hard times and you have made it through, and you have tested yourself and challenged yourself. Maybe you've experienced, a change in your environment or your career or in your relationship, or you had a child, or just crazy life changes happen over the span of a couple of years. And this is where you have that like testing ground to prove to yourself you're still in this. This is no longer something that you just do. It's now just who you are. I think everyone has experienced a change where you can think back and like, wow, remember when this was hard for me? Now I can't even imagine myself doing anything different. I think a really great example, especially for you, Myrna, is you have a child, right? I'm sure there's a point in time where you were like, I could never, like, I like freedom. I want to do whatever I want. And now you're like, I can never imagine my life being different. Like, so just that's kind of what I mean is you as a woman are different now as a mother than who you were beforehand. And kind of similar idea is who you are at mastery is different as a human than who you were in your messy phase coming into this. But you have to go through all of the phases before you actually become this person. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of challenging yourself and overcoming obstacles and challenging those thoughts and those old habits that you had. So, if you've ever felt like at any of these phases, you're like, okay, I guess this must be it, or you felt frustrated, or you felt like, is this really how it should be? I hope this gives you a little bit of perspective that we do have times during this journey that are actually hard, and there's really not a lot we can do about it aside from change the way that we think about it, right? Because like hard is just a label that we put on something. Nothing really has meaning aside from the meaning that we give it. So sometimes we can help ourselves out in the messy phase and in the consistency phase by changing the way that we describe the activity, like we talked about in like the habit building workshop that we did a few weeks ago. Whereas like you might want to start by checking your thoughts. Like, how are you actually describing the things that you're doing? If you're like, ugh, I have to work out today, kind of taking mental note of that. It's like, wait, maybe I shouldn't talk about it like that. Maybe I should say, I get to work out today. I'm excited to work out today. I'm looking forward to working out today. I'm so blessed that I have a body that can actually work out, that I have the health that can actually allow me to work out. So those things do kind of help us during these challenging times. But nonetheless, even if you have the best mindset around change, it will have times where it is just flat out hard. And that's okay because you're tough. Does this make sense? Are you guys like kind of relating to this in any way? You can give me like a nod. And if not, let me know. If you're like, I don't really resonate with this, that's okay too. Let me know what your thoughts are.
I think I'm in between some of them, like in between 3 and 4.
I would say so. Yeah, I think that's a good play. I think you can also be pretty deep in a couple of them. I think you have a lot of 3 and 4, probably a little more 4, because your knowledge is quite rich on what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Liz said it makes sense. Okay, good. And I wanted to do this training just so that way you don't ever feel like you're doing it wrong, because usually that's really not the issue. It's just that we got to go through the tough times. And there's not always a way around that. And again, we can help by, changing our mindset around it and kind of filling it with gratitude instead of frustration. That's always helpful. How do you feel, Myrna?
I think like it makes sense. I think for me, it's kind of like wanting something more concrete, like time frames. And I know it's different for everybody, but I think it's hard not to compare, you know. And when you see other people having progress in like 3 months, and then you compare it to yourself, and then it's like, okay, like feeling like you have to be perfect in order to see progress. So that's kind of like for me where I get a little bit confused, as to what's sustainable, what I don't know.
Yes, and I really appreciate your honesty, because I think everyone can relate to maybe comparing ourselves at times to whether others in the group or what we see on social media, and think like, okay, well, why doesn't my journey look like that? And it can be frustrating, but at the same time, we're also different, like our bodies are different. The way that we respond to stress is different. The way we overcome challenges, the words that we use, like everything is just so different. You know, you have a very different history as the next person. And that's what makes us great, right? Because we all have different things that we contribute and we're all different humans. But I understand that sometimes it can feel like it sucks. Like it seems effortless for those people. And I guarantee you, even for those where it seems like it was effortless for them, almost everyone has a story of some sort, something they had to overcome before they can get there. But there's also something that I believe to be very true is it works best when you believe it will work. So sometimes when we have a nature of second guessing things, and I'm not saying that this is what you do, Myrna, but sometimes if we have we're constantly second guessing what we're doing, we're slowing down that process because the body responds so much to our thoughts and to our words. So I really want to encourage you, if you, I don't remember who exactly was at the training where we talked about habits, but where we were talking about just the language that we use when we're talking in our minds, is maybe taking like audit of that. Again, I'm not saying that, oh, it's like you need to change how you think about these things. I don't know if that's really an issue for you per se, but I think a lot of us had to go through checking our thoughts in general. And also, comparison is going to rob you of all of your happiness because you're making so, I mean, just the last 30-day review that you and I did is incredible change because it's affecting the quality of your life. It's not just, oh, I'm seeing my jeans fit different, like your quality of life is better. And I want to presume that those things were probably a big reason why you were here, right? Like to experience those things. So everyone's journey is going to be a little bit different. And I know sometimes we can see other people winning as like, dang, I want that too. And although we're happy for them, we want that too. And I understand. I just hope that you can honor your journey for what it is and just kind of stay focused on your path and what you're doing while still being able to celebrate others. But I've struggled with that personally. So just speaking from my own experience, something that I continue to work on, you know. Mariana said she relates to this too. I'm glad because sometimes we just got to know we're not crazy, you know? Like you're not doing things wrong. It's not that you're not working hard enough. I mean, I guess only you would know, right? If you're working to your potential. But it's not always that. It's not always what you're doing wrong. Sometimes it's just you're exactly where you should be. I'm telling you, if the journey was easy, it wouldn't be a fulfilling one. You would get where you wanted to be and be like, all right, that was cool. Whatever. Oh well.
I think I don't know how many will relate to this, but I think what's also like a shock for me and like trying to think like because it makes sense. This makes sense. And I think it's so hard to come up with time frames because everybody's so different, right? Like you were saying. I think what's so challenging for me is the pre and post pregnancy, right? And the pre-pregnancy and how I mean, I've always been, you know, like curvy and thicker, but that's just my body type. Like I don't expect anything different. I expect like tone. But I remember, okay, getting on it and then like losing it, right? And then now I'm like, holy cow, like, okay, I need to like fine tune. So definitely the mindset has changed, I think, like, because I'm not like sad about it. I'm more like, what can I do? What do I need to tweak? Or maybe I just need to, you know, continue to move forward so that I can be on the getting the hang of it phase, right? So it's like it's not negativity, but it does, you know, the exercise you had, sorry, my dog. So the exercise you had on Monday about writing like what are the reasons that you do it, you know, one of them is like you do want to lose weight, like one is the health of it, you want to lose weight. So I think for me, the shock is kind of like, man, I used to be able to do this and now I'm not. Just like again, the comparison and knowing that we're in different parts of our life, but also questioning, I think sometimes like, what do I need to do? Okay, what do I need to add this or am I doing it the right way? You know, so
I
that's
understand. And that is exactly a huge issue that people face in the phase that you're in is we think we need to be doing more and more and more and more. And what we really need to do is focus on cleaning up the fundamentals as much as we can. Like just doing what we've been doing, but better and better and better, more consistently, with more effort, with more intention, not adding things or not getting rid of things. Is like, how can I do the things I've been doing, but better? And that's exactly the same thing we do in the consistency phase. Is like, I'm doing the same things, but I have to figure out tiny ways to move this needle. It's a mind game. This journey is so mental, and you are like reaffirming that. It's so, so, so mental. And of course, like, that's also why we encourage everyone to jump into office hours like every week if you can, because we can just consistently be looking, analyzing data. How did this go? What can we do better this next week? Like, we're here for that. Every single week, I'm here for that. I have my Zoom room open for over an hour to be here for that. So it's up to you if you want to jump in and really look at things on a magnifying glass to that level, or if you're okay, like, I got this for a couple of weeks and I'll jump in when I need it. So this journey is yours. I don't want to force you into like, no, you need to be here all the time, because you know how to find me, right? You know how to reach out. And I trust that you reach out when it's right for you, because otherwise I don't want to risk ruining your experience by being overly pushy and demanding things from you that maybe are not in alignment with you. Everyone's journey is different. Some need like accountability all the time. Like they need those weekly office hours or they will fall off, and others it's stressful to be checking in every week. Everyone's different. So that's why I'm not like, I need you there, because I need you to decide that. What do you need? But if that's what you want, girl, you know I'm here on Thursdays and we can totally go over things and just keep fine tuning together. Here for that. I'm always here for that. I actually really love doing that. So, but some food for thought, all right? Because this journey can feel lonely even in a group setting. So I just want to let you know that if you're feeling any type of way, for one, it's temporary. If you're feeling negativity or you're feeling down or discouraged, it is temporary. And two, it's normal. And three, there are definitely better days on the way. And these tougher days are what makes the finish line feel so, so good. Thank y'all for being here. I hope this was helpful.